Okay. How you guys doing today? I hope you're fine. Good to see you. I'm live here in Singapore. Feel free to tell me your name and where you're joining me from. So it's after 8:46 in Singapore. The Christmas lights are already up. So this particular street, this is the 40th anniversary of them lighting their Christmas tree, right, in the entire street. You can see it goes down. The entire street always has Christmas lights up. It's my first time in Singapore, and despite how late it is, it's busy. Like, I mean, it's night, but everybody's here. Renek says, I really want to travel to Singapore and stay Marina by Sand, Marina Bay Sand. I'm trying to get in touch with you. Can I get your number? If you try to get in touch with me, send a DM. Okay, send a DM and my people will reach out to me. So oftentimes people want to talk to me directly, but the reality is that you have to go through my office, and then they get to know whether it's something that I need to deal with directly or somebody else has been employed to deal with that thing. So if somebody else has been employed to handle that thing, they will have to transfer it to that person who has been employed to handle it. Okay, so if you always want to reach me, just send a DM, or you can call my office and they will attend to you. So plus 234 81 800-00618. That's the number to always call. So this is part 2. I started part 1, and I was talking about a couple of lessons that I've learned about real estate since I got to Singapore. So what are the real estate lessons that I'm learning? For me, I came here intentionally to be able to study the city and just understand Singapore. This is a short trip. I hope some other year I'll be able to come with family and probably do 2 weeks and all of that. On Friday I have a book signing, the Billionaire Habits book signing as well. But yeah, I'm learning. So are you ready to learn part 2? By the way, if you missed part 1, go watch it. Okay, go watch part 1. I mentioned about 4 real estate lessons that I learned. It was a very exciting conversation that you should watch. So go watch it on this same page. So this is part 2, real estate lessons that I learned. Number 1 is the countries with the largest natural resources are not the richest. It is the countries that are able to refine the natural resources that are rich. King Talk, you want my book? Send a DM. Okay, send a DM to this Instagram page, and they will send you the details how to get my book. Now, it is people. So, and this has been something I've wondered over the years. How come nations with the best natural resources are poorer than nations with zero natural resources? And the lesson I've come to realize is you must turn your real estate, your landed property, to a refining property, right? You must have, instead of just, oh, we have gold, can you be the person refining gold? Dubai, for example, does not have any gold, but they've turned themselves to the hub where gold is refined. So how do you turn your real estate, your land, to a place for commerce, a place for refined products? So again, Singapore does not have any natural resources, not even one natural resources. Singapore does not have any natural resources. But what they've done is that they refine, including petroleum products. They don't have oil like we do in Africa and Nigeria. They don't even have oil. At least Dubai has some oil. Abu Dhabi has oil in commercial quantity. Okay, Singapore does not even have. But what they've done is to be able to refine it and still export it to other countries. Number one, what they've done is all the big banks are here. Citibank, they've made themselves a major financial hub in Asia. And because Lee Kuan Yew, who was their hero, political hero, of course, brought a law where if you are a government official and you're found corrupt, you will be sent to life imprisonment. Yes, you heard me. That was the law Lee Kuan Yew instituted. Life imprisonment for corruption. Life, literally, you will never see the light of the day again. So bringing the law where there's life imprisonment for corruption made Singapore one of the countries you can trust. Okay, when it comes to business, you can put your money, you can invest your money any day, anytime, and you are rest assured you're good. So they became a financial hub for Asia. Okay, so different countries are bringing their money and keeping in Singapore. Again, the second real estate lesson was that they decided to become a hub for refined products and to then export it. So everything you see in Singapore is imported. Like I told you, even the land is imported, because over 30% of Singapore, the city of Singapore, including the airport, the sand that was used, okay, because it was all water, they had to import sand from Indonesia to sand field, over 30%, and then build the airport there. Can you believe that? Okay, isn't that strange? And that's very, very strange, honestly. So, virtually everything is important, but what they've done is they refined it, okay? They refined it and they export it back, okay? Get your products, import a product when it's not yet refined, get it refined and send it back. And it's become a major opportunity for the country to turn itself around. Oftentimes people talk about how rich Singapore is, as if they have resources. No, because of their no to corruption, very, very rich Asian, right? Whether they're Chinese, whether they're Indians, decide to move into the country and start living here. So that helped the nation to have a lot of money because of the rich people who live in Singapore. It's peaceful, you know, very, very safe country. And so people are coming. Integrity is high, people are investing. But more importantly is their wisdom in turning their real estate to a location to refine products. A location to refine products. where you are able to pick natural resources, bring it to Singapore, refine it, and export it. And people all over Asia are coming to buy, name it, designers. Like I said, everywhere but actually in this street is a mall. If you can notice, the first 3 to 5 floors are all malls. Okay? Different designers, everybody's on this particular stretch of Singapore. Whether you go right or left or you go straight, it's all different malls, and you can shop till you go bankrupt. Okay, number 3 under this point is then leveraging on tourism. Okay, creating a base for people all over the world to come, shop, have a great experience, enjoy the city, and go back to their country. But they've made it so sweet that there's nothing you want to buy you won't find. So by the time you're leaving, you've dropped all your money in Singapore, which is a very wise and a clever one. So how do you build residential and commercial real estate in such a way that gives you a mix of finance, of shopping experience, retail, of residential, of hotels, tourism, okay? And I think that's what we've been able to do that I'm learning big time from. I mean, if you know, our own dream and vision is to build green and smart homes, isn't it? And create a mixture of residential and commercial real estate. But seeing a lot of, I think Singapore represents really the dream that we have, because the ability to leverage on nature, plants everywhere. If you notice, everywhere are plants. Everywhere is like a garden. And the ability, of course, to mix residential and commercial real estate, okay, is also another smart and clever one they've done as well. I think another good one is the fact that they've turned their land to a place where they refine natural resources. They import it, refine it, and export it back. That is also a very smart move that Singapore has done. Have we learned something, guys? If you learn something, type I learned something, I learned something. Guys, talk to me. Have you learned something? Okay? If you're learning, type I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. This is amazing. I'm looking at all these trees and it's just impressive. If you're learning, type I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. Okay? Talk to me. Tolex AJ, I'm learning. Olayimika, I'm learning. Okay, good. Remember to invite people, let them join this particular show. So I'm talking about lessons from Singapore, real estate lessons, right? And I've talked about how Singapore is able to, is a city or country without any natural resources. But the wisdom Singapore deployed is to become a hub for refining natural products and then exporting it back out of Singapore. Number 2, they've become a hub for shopping. So the whole of Asia, and even outside of Asia, I came from Africa, are able to come to Singapore to shop. Number 3, they've become a hub for tourism, right? Creating location, destinations you would like to visit and work. And of course, because it's a very safe environment, they've created that environment that is very safe. Number 4 is financial hub. They've created, because of integrity and Lee Kuan Yew policy of life imprisonment for corrupt officials, right? Singapore became a very, very um, very, very, what do you call it now? Very, very safe location to do business. So a lot of the businesses, banks globally, financial institutions have made Singapore their home, thereby attracting all of the wealthy people who are coming here to do business because the money is safe, there's high integrity, and so that has helped Singapore to be what it is today. And you want to learn that. I mean, for me, is how do we replicate that in the estates we're building? How do we make sure that even if the estate, the land doesn't have any resources, natural resources, we can do a lot of refining within the estates and cities we're building, because GTEX is building cities. How do we make sure the cities we're building is a major tourist location for both retail shopping, great locations, and great tourist, created environment that we'll put there. Okay, you can see, like I said, they've decorated their streets. This entire stretch, you have their street lights, beautifully done. And this is the 40th year that they are decorating this particular street for Christmas, and it's really beautiful and looking good. I'm lovely. I'm just taking my night walk. I've learned I burn more fat taking a walk than actually gymming, I've noticed now. So I do more work. Okay? Project Green Kick says we could create sustainable spaces in GTEX. I mean, of course, that's what we're doing. What do you think we're doing in the first place? That's the whole idea. Just that Rome is not built in a day. That's the whole idea. Every of GTEX estates is going to be very sustainable. The lesson, however, here is how they all play, right? Industrial play with tourism, with shopping, with residential, with commercial. Everybody's having a play, and I think that's a major lesson to study about how Singapore has been able to put all of that together, including their greenery. I mean, I'm looking at how creatively they've put so much gardens, so much trees in a city, right? I've not been to any city that has been able to infuse, literally, you see skyscrapers, but you also see massive trees, right? Or, meshed into the big city, right? It's like, see now, it's like I'm in a bush, but actually you can see skyscrapers. So how do you blend skyscrapers, massive garden, massive trees? Is that blend that you find in Singapore, right? That even some of the skyscrapers still have, plants in them. That's a major thing that I think they've done well, and it's really what, clapping for Singapore. Okay? How many of you have been to Singapore before? If you have, just type me. If you have not, type I have not, just to have an idea. If you have been to Singapore before, type me. If you have never been to Singapore before, type I have not. If you have ever been to Singapore, just type me, so I know that you have been to Singapore. If you've never been to Singapore, type I have not. But if you type me, kindly let me know what was the major lesson, what was the biggest thing for you when you visited Singapore. What was the major attraction for you? What was the most exciting thing for you? So I've been sharing a couple. This is part 2 of the real estate video, the video I'm doing here in Singapore. Just mentioning things I'm learning, okay, and my observations about that, and I think that is very critical. Next real estate lesson I'm learning from Singapore is how important security is. You know, a lot of people have been to our estates and they get surprised. We have CCTV camera, we have policemen, we have other private security people on ground. And they sometimes wonder that, hey, there are not too many people living in this estate yet. Why all this heavy security? You know, and for me is that I've gotten to learn that when it comes to real estate, no matter how beautiful a city is, once that city is not safe, then the value begins to decline. Let me repeat myself again. No matter how beautiful a city is, right? Once the city is not safe, the value begins to decline, right? So, a beautiful city, yeah, but is it safe? Once the city is not safe, you just realize that the value begins to drop. Nobody wants to live in the city. Real estate prices begin to drop, and it's something that, you know, Singapore has confirmed. Safety, security. I remember asking my driver, I said, why is crime very low in Singapore? Right? So I asked the driver, I said, why is crime very, very low in Singapore? And he said something powerful. He said, once you have committed a crime in Singapore, right, you will hardly ever get a job again. Literally, it will be so tough to even get a job. Nobody wants to look at you. Nobody wants to touch you. And so the punishment for just committing a crime, for just being, you know, and it's not about big crime. Sometimes it's just some small thing that you did. But guess what? The consequences is far-reaching. As a result, people don't want to commit crime in Singapore. And also because if you legitimately now want a job, Singapore has structured itself that everybody can get a job. Okay? So, if you then break the law, you have, first of all, you'll be caught, guaranteed. You will be caught. But it's also the fact that there's a stigma on you. It's like they create a system where there's a huge stigma on you once you break the law. And everywhere, you know, they swipe your name is there. So everybody knows that, oh, this guy is a felony. This guy has broken the law before. And so people don't want to break the law in Singapore. People don't want to because the consequences are tough. I already told you as well that for government officials, and I think we should do that in Africa, if you steal, you are sent to life imprisonment for stealing public funds. Life imprisonment. Can you imagine? You didn't kill anyone just because you stole money. And it doesn't matter how little the money is. Okay? You're found guilty. It's life imprisonment. And the Great Lincoln, you put that law in place. It's important to know that there's no perfect leader. You know, I met somebody. She's a resident of Singapore. And she's not a fan of Lee Kuan Yew. She felt that he was kind of dictatorial. Okay, I mean the man ruled Singapore for 41 years as the prime minister, and even after he left, he was now made higher, you know, super minister, and then later again he was made the mentor minister. So he kind of directly or indirectly ruled Singapore for over 50 years. And it was very tough. So some people might not like him. But you see, I've learned over the years that nothing great is easy. Nothing great is easy. In my part 1 of this video, I talked about something very powerful, and that was the fact that you need to have strong leadership to do real estate. Only strong leaders are able to build great real estate empires, right? If you're not a strong leader, you will struggle to build, you will struggle to succeed in real estate. It takes strong leadership, okay, to succeed when it comes to real estate. Strong leadership. And for me, what life has shown me is that no perfect leader. For you to achieve something great, you have to take some very, very tough decisions. And those tough decisions, some people will not be happy about them, right? Some people have reservations about them. But ultimately, it is that the nation change that matters the most. I mean, same thing with Dubai. The Sheikh Al Maktoum isn't one of those easy leaders. He's a tough leader as well. But the question is, in the overall interest of the people, is the nation able to change? Is there a transformation in the overall interest of everybody involved? And sometimes that is really what must be prioritized, as against trying to please everyone. You can never please everyone. Okay, to be a great leader, you have to be tough, strong, and these are realities here. Okay? So, I don't know where this place is. I'll be interested to know whether... I have a question for everybody watching. Who is the current Prime Minister of Singapore? Who can guess the answer without having to check Google? Who is the current Prime Minister of Singapore? Okay? Can anybody guess the answer? Do not Google. Alright? I know some of you will check Google and still come and give me an answer and act as if you didn't check Google. Who is the current Prime Minister of Singapore? Anyone? Beautiful. Someone says, thought I mentioned earlier. No, I didn't mention it earlier. I only talk about Lee Kuan Yew, right? Lee Kuan Yew is no longer the Prime Minister. In fact, Lee Kuan Yew is late now. Okay, it's late now. Lee Long is the current Prime Minister. Did you Google it? Or you guessed? Huh? Shandida. Did you Google it or it was just a guess? You're just guessing that Lee Long is the Prime Minister. I just want to know. Okay, now you guys can Google it. Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew, yes, and that's not the spelling of Lee Kuan Yew, by the way. So somebody else says Lee Hsien Loong. Lee Hsien Loong. Lee Hsien. So I need you to Google who is Lee Hsien. Okay, who is he? A lot of you are getting the answers. Of course, Google helped you. All of you got the answer. You have to Google it, right? But who is Mr. Lee Hsien Loong? Who is he? Okay? Can you Google who he is? I think that's what is most important to the conversation today. We're looking about Singapore, guys. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot the world can learn about Singapore. no natural resources, not even one, but has built an amazing city. See how beautiful the street is for Christmas. It's a beautiful Christmas light. Really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city, honestly. Somebody says senior minister. That's not the question. Who is he? Okay? Lee Hsien Loong. Who is he? What I'm trying to get out of it is he the son of Lee Kuan Yew? That's my question, actually. So can you Google and check and let me know? Because my driver said the current prime minister is the son of Lee Kuan Yew, and I just wanted to confirm that. So can you help me check who is the current prime minister, okay, or leader or ruler of Singapore? What's his relation to Lee Kuan Yew? Okay? Aha. Okay, did Google confirm it? The real Oluwole. Kindly help me confirm whether Google confirmed that he's actually Lee Kuan Yew's son. You know, just help me check. I just want to be sure that Google confirmed it. I think the current prime minister isn't as outspoken like Lee Kuan Yew was, but he's actually the son of Lee Kuan Yew, and it's really remarkable. For me, it gets me a lot thinking, because a lot of us, how many of you agree with me that Africa will never allow such, even if the person is performing, right? Africans, we often want to rebel, and I think maybe colonization is part of our problem. We are often tempted to want to behave like the colonial masters and say, oh no, you know, the father can't be president, the son will be president. The father can't rule us and the son rule us. So now all of that. But my argument is, I think the priority should be, is there results, right? The result has to be what's important. I mean, people have their reservation about Paul Kagame of Rwanda, but for me it's as long as there's results. Okay, I support Paul Kagame still being president of Rwanda. For example, Chancellor Angela Merkel has been the Chancellor of Germany. She did like 5 terms. Nobody even complained, if you guys notice. Nobody complained that Angela Merkel was Chancellor of Germany for more than 5 terms. Okay, but sometimes we exaggerate these things when it comes to Africa. And oh no, we can't do, because sometimes inconsistency when it comes to policies is part of the problem we're facing in Africa. Okay? It's part of the problem we're facing in Africa. There is just so much inconsistency when it comes to policy decision. This president comes, you know, have this rule. Another president comes, change the entire thing all over again. And so there's no consistency of policy. And it's part of why Africa isn't working the way we need it to work. I mean, you won't be surprised that Singapore is doing well because the policy has remained the same, okay, in the last 60 years. Nothing has touched the policy. It's the same ideology, it's the same processes, it is the same policy, and it has constantly worked. So consistency in policy is another lesson I'm learning, because governance is about real estate as well. When you are a president, you control the entire real estate of that nation. When you're a governor, you control the real estate of that, state. When you are a landlord, you control the policy, the religion, the culture of the piece of land that you bought. You see why real estate is very critical, right? You influence what happened on that land because you're the owner, right? So you influence a whole lot. And that's why real estate is very, very powerful. But it's also important to be conscious of consistency of policy, consistency of protocol and principles when it comes to the property that you control, okay? How you guys doing again? Dr. Stephen Akintayo, live here in Singapore, taking my night work. Did one earlier in the afternoon, and I'm doing another one now. Like I said, I'm learning to work. I realize I lose small weights doing that. Okay, so work. But what I love about the work is that when I do work like this, I'm able to share a lot with you guys. I'm able to speak and inspire and, talk about a couple of things that I believe in, about principles, about what I'm learning, about life. How many of you agree with me that traveling is a form of education? If you agree, type I agree. If you don't agree, of course, you can type I don't agree. How many of you agree that traveling is one of the highest form of education? Okay? Because what you see, okay, shape your world. And what you see is very powerful. Once you see it, you can't unsee it again. Right? It's now ingrained in your mind for the rest of your life. In fact, it finds its way into your subconscious. So what you see is very powerful. And that's why investing in visiting countries, nations that are doing well, creates that image in you that it is possible for countries to do well. It's possible to build an entire community and the community will be safe. It's possible to build a system that works. It is possible, right? But your exposure, your traveling, for example, there's a lot I've learned from transportation to maximizing land to concepts around building malls. Like here in Singapore, the malls are quite unique, right? I haven't seen where real estate is as maximized as I've seen in Singapore, and I'm not even kidding you. Like I said, I've seen it in London and New York, but it's a higher level. So on this particular, this Orchard Street, right? Practically every building, the 5th or 3rd floor down, is a mall. Some even have underground, okay? That is a mall. Then from the 5th floor up is usually either offices or residential, right? So, and yet they still have a place for garden, they still have a place for trees. It's just, and because it's a very tiny island, so they had to be creative from day one on how they manage their real estate. Okay, from day one, they had to be extremely creative. And I'm seeing that here. A couple of real estate concepts that I know I will replicate one day. Power of exposure. Like I said, traveling is one of the highest form of knowledge. right? Because you will see things, and over time you replicate those things. One day you just see Vic says they manage everything and very creative. I agree with you. They manage everything and they were very, very creative, very, very creative. How they manage their spaces. Even their subway, I'm just realizing they have subways. You're not seeing anything, everything is underground. And you're wondering how even that was managed as well. But it's really impressive, really, really impressive. It's for me something I always remember about Singapore, right? And this is after 9 and everywhere is still busy. Okay, everywhere is still busy. So again, talking about once there is security, you have people willing to travel and move, and it's just amazing. Once again, welcome to Singapore, guys. So, any question for me before I wrap up today's part 2 of real estate lessons from Singapore? Okay, any question? And he says they have some landmark real estates that have attracted global attention. Absolutely, they did, and they do. I think some of it is the ability to be creative about the design, but at the same time, sustainability being, entrenched into the design, as well as, of course, a lot of greenery, which makes, I think they are, looking at it, they are the most green city in the world. Not necessarily in terms of renewable energy, because I haven't done research yet about their source of energy, whether they are using, sustainable source of energy. But in terms of plants and trees and gardens, and you won't find any other city in the world that has this level of trees everywhere you go to, and these are organic. And you know what's funny? The soil does not support this. All these trees you are seeing, imported. The soil upon which they are planting these trees, imported. Because their own soil cannot even, grow this type of tree. Isn't that amazing? So you have a almost like a barren land. Practically everything in Singapore is imported, including the trees that you see on the street. But they now have more trees in their cities than Africa, where things just grow naturally. Can you believe that? Okay? They have more trees than Africa, where the soil naturally is good for planting trees. But here, the soil isn't good for planting trees. Okay, they had to import the soil. All this was imported. Their own natural soil is just sandy, right? Ocean sand. So it does not even support, so he said liquefied natural gas is their main source of energy. Okay, good. So I'm going to research that. And if that's the case, then it tells you how that is the first world green country, because the energy is green, a lot of trees not planted, even though they don't even have a soil that even supports such trees. All of these now do not grow naturally in Singapore. They have to import the sand, they have to import the trees, but they now have more trees in their cities than Lagos. And this is ridiculous. All these trees you are seeing, they are natural. They're not, there are countries where you will see, like in Dubai, you will see synthetic palm trees and all of that in some locations, right? These are not synthetic. These are real trees, right? These are real trees. They only just put the lights for the Christmas decoration. But these are real trees, real. Okay? And that's why here, if your car hits a tree, my driver told me that you pay $2,000 as a fine to the government for your car hitting a tree. Right? Because all the trees are protected by the government. They planted them. They nurture them. There's so much that goes into sustaining those trees. And honestly, this is amazing. Really, really amazing. And this is December, and it's very humid and very humid and what do I call it now? Like I'm sweating as I speak to you, right? So you can imagine that if they didn't plant all these trees to give enough oxygen, right? And birds on the tree. If they didn't plant enough trees to, oxygenate the environment, you can imagine how hot it would have been. You can imagine how hot it would have been. But, right, I give it up for Singapore. There's so much to learn, so much to learn. Somebody said amazing that this used to be the third one in the 60s. Well, I wouldn't say that. Some few in the 60s, I mean, there were still complaints. I mean, in the 60s, our leaders were still trying to get independence. Africa still felt very much extorted, by the colonial masters. Lee Kuan Yew became president 1959, and started the process. He remained president in 1990, so 41 years as the leader. So again, like I have said, we may complain as Africans, but are we willing to pay the sacrifice? Right? Are we willing to? Because we often compare ourselves to the British Empire. But the British Empire started with monarchy, which wasn't democracy, until all the infrastructure were built before the concept of democracy was introduced. In fact, the democracy concept was introduced by America. Okay? Was introduced by America. And America in itself had years of struggle with even that concept as well. So I think as much as we're all talking about our desire for Africa to change, are we also willing to sacrifice having a more consistent leadership, right? And being patient. I mean, for the first, go and do your research. The first years of Lee Kuan Yew, it wasn't that easy. People just started praying because at the first time he looked like a dictator, right? How do you come in and say people who steal are going to go to life imprisonment? Like, people felt he was a dictator, he was brutal. A lot of people didn't like him. He was 20 years into what he was doing that some of the results started showing that, okay, this model, has a lot of value. This model had something to offer. But at the beginning, it looked like this guy wants to kill us. So the question is, are we patient, even as Africans, to watch, even because there are some leaders we've kicked out that we're not patient enough for them. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot we all need to look at inwards. For me, I'm soaking a lot in. The biggest for me is TTT. Takes time, right? If it took Lee Kuan Yew over 50 years to produce this kind of nation, over 50 years, 41 as prime minister, and he still graduated. He became a high minister, then super minister, you know. So virtually 50 years running a nation to change it to what it is today. Then that tells you that Africa, has to be more patient. Okay, even if we have the right leader, it will still take a while for the results to show. It will still take a while. Okay, it will still take a while, even with the right leader, because it's easy for us to, Dubai, can't you look at, first of all, look at the population of Singapore. It's 6.5 million. Look at the population of the entire UAE. Okay, entire UAE is 10 million. Dubai alone is 4 point something million, right? So it's easier to manage smaller countries, and compared to country that right now, I'm sure if we do real census, Nigeria is over 300 million. Okay, and if you then say, well, how about China? China did it, but was China a democratic state? Right? It wasn't a democratic state. So we have to really, for me, I've been saying it for a while now, there's a lot to look into in how do we find like President Obasanjo recently said, that we need Afro-democracy, and I agree with him. Right? The Western democratic concept cannot work in Africa. I'm now extremely convinced about it. Extremely convinced. Because even the countries that are working in Africa, like Rwanda president has been there now for 5 times. Okay? Middle East that we compare, they don't do democracy the way we do democracy, right? The Middle East, as you know, is not doing democracy the way we do it. It's monarchy that is running that. So I'm looking at many countries of the world that you can say is working. There is a strong, China, for example, since the leader Chao Mao, or is it Chao Mao? What's the name? Who can remember the great, Chinese leader that instituted communism? Okay, can anybody remember his name? If you remember his name, just type it. So, since the time of their own great leader, who was very, very instrumental in changing, helping, whose policy is still what they are still using in China till today, since his time and now, 60-something years, if not over 100 years, I think. So, currently, Chairman Mao, since the day of Chairman Mao and now, can somebody Google when Chairman Mao became president or leader of Republic of China? Somebody should research that. And now, I think it's over 100 years. So to compare Africa to China without studying and analyzing the political context, okay, and how much policies had to change, right? A lot of the policies were adjusted from Xi Jinping is the current leader. He didn't start the communist, country of China, right? Chairman Mao started the current policy upon which China runs today, right? So Chairman Mao started it, and it's over 100 years since he started that policy, and every president has continued to follow that policy till date. So my argument is, we are always asking that we needed Africa to change, but we are also not looking deep into some key issues, right? Number one, is, most of you watching me are Africans, right? Did your father and mother practice democracy in your house? Did your father and mother practice democracy? Did they seek your opinion on issues, or they gave you commands that you had nothing but to obey? Does anybody understand what I'm saying? So even in our culture as Africans, we don't practice democracy. So why do we wake up and think that the democratic concept is what is the best model for us? Right? We have to evolve a more customized concept that work, for our, region. And I think that's what the Arabs are doing. Okay? All the Arab countries that remain monarchy are doing well. How many of you noticed that? All the Arab countries that has remained monarchy are doing well. Even, Egypt, that seems to now begin to evolve. You remember the current president, Sisi, was a military general. And you can imagine the first 5 years of Sisi, if you remember, in Egypt. It was protest, it was crackdown on Islamic Brotherhood. It's been tough. It's been a iron fist. If you go to Egypt today, you're going to see police on every street, right? And you mess up, they pick you up. So for there to be stability and economic growth, there's a lot of the countries you can say in the Arab, Qatar, I just left Qatar, stopped down in Doha, is monarchy. Dubai, UAE is monarchy, right? Bahrain is monarchy, right? Just look at it. It's been monarchy, and it's been consistency of policies over the years. Okay, I hope we learn a thing or two from the city of Singapore. I hope we're picking a thing or two. Feel free. If you're in Singapore or you know anybody in Singapore, let them know the Eagle is in town. On Friday, I'm going to be doing a book signing here in my suite. We just talk and learn and read about the book. It's going to be a great time with me, and I can't wait to see you guys, okay? Love you so much. God bless you, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.